Here we are looking at the top momentum companies on the ASX and the launchpad stocks. In the momentum leaders, we have what we expect. Some gold miners and some more gold miners, a lot of those pushing up to new highs. Plus we've got reporting season that's bringing out new leaders as well. Onto the launchpad side, we saw a lot of real estate development disappointment in the earnings. But on the launchpad, we've actually seen them moving up, which is an interesting insight to look into. Gary Glover's been through both lists and he's highlighted the top charts, the trading opportunities, and in particular, things that we can learn from within the charts, the setups, and how to identify these market leaders, something he's spent a lot of time researching. So without further ado, we say good morning, Gary. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, Chris. Yeah.
So I was interested to hear a lot of the things that you're talking about, different trading, different setups, and so on, and we're probably going to cross over a few of those in this list. So when you're looking at the top 30 momentum companies, that's momentum over the last quarter, which names are jumping out to you this week?
The episodic pivot or the game changer trade for Gary Glover is one that's coming out this week. Because there's 5 VPs in the momentum, so they've obviously jumped up in the last week or two, and I think there's another there's about 4 TPs in the weekly as well. So got a few episodic pivots sort of all happening there, which is obviously reporting season. So we're going to get good and bad moves here. So yeah, so that's probably the most interesting thing I'd say.
So it's fair to say that in reporting season, we do see a lot more episodic pivots than we normally would, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and the other thing too is I think on your list as well, we talk about listed property trust being pretty strong there, but also I know like a lot of my clients in the portfolios own a lot of LICs as well, and they've been, like the managed fund sort of side there, they've all been humming. Yeah, but it's weird actually. I've actually found just following those historically that oftentimes I've sort of tried when I thought the market was at a bottom. I'm looking at trying to add to portfolios there, actually buying those LIC stuff there. I've found that they go they often go lower after I bought them at the low in the market, and then and so it's sort of like it's almost they tend to sort of, and they're slow to sort of go with the market. They tend to catch up late. So I've noticed that they, even while the market's been going down here, the market's obviously off 300 points. They're still seeing the LICs all going up. So I've seen them sort of almost run like an extra month longer than the market top. And I've seen them go down for maybe 2 weeks to another month before the market lows. So you don't need to rush into those ones. It's almost like a bit of a lag effect I've found here. So so still, not a bad place to be longer term for just your portfolio clients. There obviously some reasonable yield in there, and obviously the market does well and they do well, but I find those LICs tend to lag, Chris. So I saw those on the list last week, or this week as well. The LICs, they really had some decent movers there. So quite a lot of those names have done pretty well here.
Yeah, no, it is surprising. I've noticed. Remember, there's some really obscure anomalies you have with listed investment companies, which is a function of the closed-end fund, but we won't delve into that because that's a whole topic in itself. But trading LICs is a bit of an art form, and you can also do the old ARBs with the options, which was fun. But we're looking at momentum today. So HRZ, you've got that chart going there. That's clearly a chart of interest. I love the volume that's been happening here. How do you interpret the most recent movements here?
Yeah, look, it's a little small here, so it has got obviously popped through the high there. I mean, look, you had maybe a little cup in here, but maybe a small handle there, but pretty low handles, and probably not the best setup there, but good volume setup there. The only thing on here, Chris, is the 3, we had 3 down days there. They've been all pretty heavy. So that's not what you want to sort of see there from a longer term perspective there. You'd like to sort of see some lighter volume there. So we'll see a few that have actually done those lower volume cups and then gone on with it. So there's a few in the list there. So if we go to I think MEK might be sort of something along those lines there. I think each of those sort of pullbacks there, maybe a little bit of volume in there, but I think a bit lighter in there. I think the only volume bar was sort of at the low I think again we've had a bit of a run here, and then pull back the 1 day volume, but then no volume follow through as well. So when you're sort of seeing your stock sort of running up there, you will see that 1 day volume. But then if you sort of see 2 or 3 days of very, very light volume, leaves in a reasonable position. So it still all looks okay there. So you just want to see those lighter volume pullbacks in line there. So TPW was one, obviously that's one of the number 9 there. That's Temple Webster. That's one of the episodic pivots we had last week. So that was like a 17.5% gap up there, which is pretty large. So that puts the EP at risk. It's probably too large, even though it's gone on with it there. You know, it obviously pulled back in the range there. So, you know, look, you could drill into those, try and wait for a little VCP in there, maybe try and wait for a little, you know, pull back and come into it. But probably that's one that's gone a little too large there. Whereas I think ADA, that was one that I think opened up 5% higher on the news. So that's sort of in our, that sort of 4 to, well, I think that's sort of, I think 4.5 to 7.5 might be the sort of, that's sort of where a lot of them open up, the kind of the better performing ones. So that's obviously done all right. The 88, I think the A2 milk, again, that opened up 13%. So even though that's actually gone on with it, that's probably a high risk one. So there's one that probably doesn't meet, you know, doesn't meet the,
Perfectly in the criteria.
yeah. So it's probably too big a gap here. That's got high risk. It's not, look, over 14 is a no. So, you know, 13 just comes in underneath, but still pretty, you know, probably a high risk one as well. With computer share, we saw that was number 21 on the list. That's had a 7.5% gap up. So that's in the sweet spot. So that did all right. It didn't pull back more than 1%. So that was nice. FXE, this was up 13% a couple of days ago. That we're just probably in that risky spot there. And that's obviously we got to pull back in there. So it's funny, I did actually watch this one, Chris. I thought, oh, you know, if you pull back in here, I think it actually had a little congestion there and then pulled back in there. There was a little bit of a short set up in there. Yeah, again, we're probably getting a little bit too drilling too much there, but there was a little bit of a VCP in there. So you could have got maybe a short-term trigger if you're drilling in. I don't like to go too small there. I normally like to sort of keep it within a half hourlies, but you can watch these EPs if they do sort of come off a little bit during the day. But, you know, if you're operating as EPs with a 1% stop, you would definitely want to get stopped out on that SXC. So just seeing lots of those, you know, sort of filtering through. EIQ, there was a bit of a cup and handle in here, really, a bit of a VCP as well. Sort of did, you know, nice little congestion there. Sort of been a pretty strong trend. All this is sort of sitting on top of the previous high bit of spacing there. And the whole thing tightened up here. Again, you got that little 3-wave pull back in there, and then you've sort of got a little B-wave break in there. So that's been solid. Too small for me, but nothing wrong with it so far. So it's gone back up near the high here. So this is probably one just to watch for a possible cup and handle. But yeah, it's yeah. It looks okay here, but yeah, you might get a breather here at the old high there. So I'd be watching that one. We got the RXL. This is another one here. It's obviously, you know, do have a bit of a cup and handle up here. So obviously going back to retest the high, had that little ABC in there, and then it's held there quite well. The volume's a little mixed in there, so probably prefer to see it a bit lighter, but it's not overly aggressive either, I guess. So, and then it has sort of come through here. So what's Brain's doing there is that volume on the break is pretty strong. So some good volume on the break of that little handle there. So it doesn't look too bad here. Maybe that can go a bit further here. So this the volume's got enough, you know, got a bit of strength in it that you can get some follow through. OBM is another one there that's you know, been a pretty strong stock here, been on the momentum list for a while, a few times. Did sort of pull back here, have a little B-wave breakdown there, has sort of popped up, come back and gone through. So now we've gone to a new high here, but we are in a bit of a congestion phase here, Chris. So probably be nice to sort of see a little, watch for another little handle of sorts there. But has gone to a new high there and just in a bit of congestion at the moment. So just on the watch list currently. FXC, that was sort of one that we mentioned that it did have the sort of gap up there, a bit too large there. But yeah, that was a pretty good result there. So does look okay to me. Maybe we'll go back and retest the high. FND was one that I did see, VCP. Just said this was a past leader, has had a decent sized pullback there. So that's a 50%. There's our 50-80 rule there. So we'll get to 830 down to 350. So we're well and truly $5 there. So it's probably 65% pullback there. So, but did set up again. I did notice I did have a little B wave break in here, which I don't like trading these under the 50. Personally, was sort of it's pulled back here, then it started to tighten up in here, and then we get a nice VCP in here. So it did sort of break on this day on OK volume, had a little throwback there, 3 or 4 days, and then the volumes came in. So, maybe you could have bought this day here or something as well, but this would have been, this day coming out here was a little bit of a trigger, even though it would have been happening very late in the day. So it might have been, might have been a bit hesitant to pull a trigger on there. They can get little throwbacks in there, but the thing that was probably important there was the volume, so you're getting the 3 days there. So you might have actually seen this pull back, still on top of the 50. You might have actually got interested on that day there, 30th of February.
What I'm finding interesting on that chart there is what you talk about, the number of days up, and then also at the same time, the volume profile. So
yeah,
those 2 big gap up days that you're showing, start of February and 10th of February thereabouts, the big green bars of volume down below.
Yeah, exactly.
It's 4 consecutive days afterwards of about half the volume, and it still doesn't get down as low as the open on the big gap, on the gap day. So how important is that for you to see a surge up, big volume, and then 4 more days of lower volume and still not able to fall back as much? How important is that for you to identify a leader?
Oh, it's massive for me. It's a Wyckoff thing. So anyone studies Wyckoff, they can sort of see off the low here, 2 days up, big volume. So, we're talking 420 and 297 there. So we're 700,000 traded. And then we have 3 days down, 135, 139, 67 there. So we're probably traded a third of the, or less than a third, maybe half of one of those days in there. It's pulled back here, so no selling here, and then pop again. So now we're at 493. You had another big day up as well, and you had a few inside days here. The first day down, we're at 136 again, 65. So no real selling here. Maybe this was just 136. So pretty light selling here. Then you get a big pop again, 312. Then we're pulling back here. These are all 136 again. So that these 3 days of selling here don't even add up to the 1 day out. And then we get pop again, another big volume day. And again, these probably 3 or 4 days down here all add up to the same. So this means that, it's taking 1 day to go up there, and then 3 or 4 days of selling, it can't go to a new low, and the volume's not even accumulating, pushing past what was an up day as well. So that's just a really good volume profile there. And then you're coming out here as well. So coming out this day here, it'll be all that volume there. So pretty decent day. So that's why I know some people say volumes,
Immaterial.
Well, volume can be dirty, can be, can't trust volume, and I just can't disagree. I just can't agree with that. So
we got a lot of listeners down to volume.
Yeah.
Even nice, and Chris Karcher did as well. So
yeah. Look, price is the most important issue, but volume is a strong second, and I think everything else is far off really. So all the other things are sort of are less important to me. What else we got there? I mean, MAF being pretty strong here. I don't know. I mean, look, it had that pullback there, again, sort of wondering about this, just you just wait for like a little bit of a B wave on these strong names and then sort of try and come in there. Maybe make sure they're above the, I like to buy them above the 50. That's not always the case. I know some of them, when they pull back, a lot of them are often below the 50. So, do you make an exception there, or do you wait there? So, tend to get a few more failed signals if they're under the 50, and I find they tend to be a lot more higher if they're above the 50. So that one there is sort of probably just borderline there, because you're just buying under the 50, even though I did close above it there. But yeah, just an interesting there, sort of just once you've sort of got your process in place at the moment, I've sort of got my rinse and repeat sort of setups there. That's the only one, that's the only grey area that I'll, if it's under the 50, I haven't been taking them, but I've seen a few of them trigger under the 50 and then still work. So, do you make an exception there, or do you look at, so like maybe there's a fundamental filter there as well, Chris, that maybe to add on to maybe some of those. That's sort of, I wouldn't take them all trades there, but maybe the strongest names there, you might consider that. What do we got there? I think CHM was interesting now. So people are talking about this one there. I thought it was sort of it was doing hard to get off the bottom there, but it did sort of, did build here really. So it did really get a 0, 1, 2, or the whole thing tighten up here, but it did break out. It did sort of gap up for a little B wave there. But yeah, it's been so far sort of solid here. So it's had a nice move here, a nice pullback, big volume bar as well. So volume profile looks pretty interesting. So it's definitely one that sort of, does tighten up here on a little flag. There could be one to keep an eye on. It's got a lot of losers in front of this one here. It's sort of it's coming off a pretty, base here, but, volume's been elevated for a while here. So this does have potential base building characteristics, but does have a lot of loose in front of it. So it just means every time it gets has a decent move there, it's going to be sort of facing some selling pressure there. So ALC, bit small for me, this one here, but get a bit of a cup and handle there. I thought this was pretty young here, this handle, so I wouldn't have been buying this on a little 2-day. It's obviously had an announcement today, but did go to the new high there. Would have been nice to sort of set up. I just had this to watch for a possible handle, but handle's very short there, so it's already gone. What else we got there? HM, the last one there is, this is interesting there, because it did have that sort of, it's pretty choppy sort of stock here, but did go back up to the high here, and then some chunky volume there, and then tightened up in here, and then just had that little, did sort of pop this day here. So there was a bit of a handle going on, just like a higher handle. So I thought this was interesting, but again, it's popped through there. But a little hard to trade that sort of stock. I thought wasn't the most liquid there. Any other sort of stock that was, I think it might have been a list there the last week or two, was that C8 as well. I noticed that one sort of continued on. So didn't sort of see this one there, but I think this is a really good one for the volume profile as well, Chris, because that seen there, see the volume up into that high was really robust volume, and then it pulled back here. Yeah, we just see the volume taper off as well, and then bang, and the volume comes in again, pops up. Volume goes up pretty nice up to the high. If you drill into the days, there's 2 down days there, so the volume is like really light. And then even that 1 day down day lighter again, up near the high as well. Look at that, the day down inside day volume lighter as well. So when you see that sort of strength move and then the volume going up, and if you have a down day or 2 and there's no volume coming in, it's just good signs there that gives you more confidence with the stock you're long then. So so I think some interesting setups there, some good volume profiles in there, some good EPs in there as well. So always a couple of exceptions to the rules, but yeah.
Well, that's is that the momentum list you've been through?
Use momentum list, yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So what we shared with members this week was something that Gary and I have been talking about for some time, which is a list of the leading themes on the ASX, and looking at the top 20 themes for both momentum and then also Launchpad. And this is partly because when we have a washout like we've seen in the last week, the market falls 5, 8%, that kind of thing. Often we find that the analysis of the next leaders really becomes at its most useful after a washout. Anyway, the momentum themes for this week. No surprises. We've got gold explorers up there, 28 constituents within the top 200 momentum companies. They're ranked 4th. Gary mentioned the listed investment companies. And what we've seen, similar kind of thing around the same time, is wealth management and financial planning. So they're ranked number 10 with 18 constituents. And software with 25. So 1 in 8 of the top 200 companies in the software space. And then if you delve down sort of into the sub themes, you've got data analytics and property management, so on. Still some individual minerals, nickel, zinc are up there, and then also some copper and silver. But then the launchpad that Gary's about to look at now. So the top themes, and remember a couple of weeks ago, Gary said he saw property come back in there. We've seen some property companies perform well. Speaking with analysts and dissecting the numbers that they've been crunching and their view on the numbers, they said that real estate developers haven't really been doing that well. Interestingly, that space is ranked number 1 in the launchpad right now with 8 constituents up there. So it doesn't mean that they're top momentum performers now, but when we look at everything in a relative performance for this week, that may be with the commentary and looking forward. So that's one part to look at in reporting season. Extending that theme out, like Gary's been talking about, listed property trusts, shops, retail, and they're the main ones in the property space at the moment. The rest of it is pretty spread out. So when we can start to see that concentrate in the next couple of weeks, that'll hopefully give us confidence for the next theme to trade. So with that overview, Gary, we've sort of talked about a fair few on the launchpad. When you look at individual companies, what it's popping out to you in that launchpad list this week?
Yeah, we already covered number 1, FND, so there's a VCP in there, which has done all right. Number 2, FID, there was a bit of a cup and handle in there, and that's a bit of a real tightening pattern. Yeah, so relative strength, really tight congestion there, and then we're coming out of that. That's, we're doing definitely seeing a bit of that. So stocks there. So you do see, I think you mentioned, was it SRV or something, was another one that was a bit like that as well. So again, sort of like a bit of a cup here and then, not too much weakness there. It's really, you've shown strength there and then you've rounded off and then you pop out there. So that's, you always got to keep an eye on sort of stocks that aren't showing too much weakness there, that are struggling to go down, because then they tend to pop up here. So I think IDX is another one that's sort of just hanging around here, Chris, as well. So, so far it's all been pretty mild on the pullback here. So definitely one to sort of keep an eye on. TRS, I think this was a episodic pivot. So then, but another exception to the rules there is up 15% on the open there. So gapped up more than the 14%, which is sort of high risk. But it has actually sort of gone on with that. So yeah, it does look all right. What else we got there? One I thought was interesting here was actually Tyro. Just because like it's been on a bit of a downtrend for a while here, but the whole thing is sort of tightening up there. If you look at the sort of weekly setup here, you can see that, this is, the whole thing's pretty tight in here. There's a really tightening, the whole thing's tightening up in here. So not the best setup, because it is sort of, in the lower half here, but we do have a bit of a tightening section. And we have seen a few of those payment stocks, Chris, start to pop up here. So we saw Zip pop up out of the range recently. I don't know, if it's meaningful or not. But there was just a few. I think Hum might have popped up out of the range as well. I had a bit of a, jump up and come back here. So yeah, just a few of those names, sort of popping up and coming back here. But yeah, I thought Tyro is interesting there, just because it's sort of like, negative. I mean, it's all lower high here, but just flirting with the last swing high here. So we're right at it line here. So volume's a bit light here. So not getting the great profile there, but there's a big tightening pattern there on the weekly there. So I just thought that was sort of interesting. AIS, another one there that sort of tightened up here. Just didn't like the volume profile here recently. Sort of, pretty light volume rallies here and probably heavier on the selling here. So it's
Going under that 60-day moving average, isn't it?
Yeah, even though it's sort of come back. Like the weekly doesn't look too bad there, but it just still not in the best position there. So still more signs of selling there. You just want to sort of clear some. I think Judo, bit of a cup and handle here. Did have the gap up. I think it was 3.1% on the news there. So it was a bit of an EP there. Might have flashed down more than 1% on the retracement intraday. But yeah, there was a nice little cup and handle there. See that went to retest the high there, sort of stayed nice and tight in here. Pretty light volume in there. And then a bit of a tell the day before, yeah, starting to see some volume coming in, popping up here. So, but yeah, that's not too bad there. What a GYG. I did see this one here. I thought this was pretty interesting there. There was definitely a VCP under the high there. See how it sort of pulled back here. It's obviously stock showing relative strength. Did pop through, but then it's had 3 days and then got dropped here. So to me personally, I did take this trade there just because it's a big dollar amount. When you're sort of looking at those sort of $42 stocks there, you really need like a really big move for it to, you have to sort of buy a pretty large parcel as well. So, I just, like I don't trade anything under, 50 cents. There's sometimes these sort of big stocks there, sort of $40, $50, $100 stocks, they're hard to move the needle. You need to sort of look at the, what their sort of average true range is and stuff like that, just sort of moving there. Because sort of, you really need a big position on it, and to move the needle, it just makes it difficult. It often comes too hard to me, so I often rule them out there. What have we got there? I thought AVH got a little bit of B waves there, but again, this is impulsive sell-off here and then starting to base here. I know we're getting a few volume days on the up and then I'm pulling back on a lot of volume, but still sitting under the 50, so doesn't hit my filter there. But yeah, it's okay there. It's just had a pretty aggressive sort of pullback there, So, but yeah, we're in a pretty aggressive type of market there where it doesn't, that's like those sort of insurers and the banks. We've been saying for probably 12 months they're bloody expensive, and then so do you wait for the 10 or 15% pullback which they richly deserve? And you think, it could take months, but I was saying insurers are already, I think IAG already dropped 20% in about less than 2 weeks. I think NAV's already dropped 10-15% here in a week. So they're not going to be slow, these pullbacks. Their market's it's adjusting really quickly. I mean, it's pretty interesting. The market is only off about 300 points for us, considering we're seeing insurers come off 10 to 20%, and then the banks come off 10% as well. So pretty healthy signs that we're actually, the index is actually holding up pretty well. So I actually reckon that's pretty encouraging there that we've held up quite nicely. PBH, thought this was okay. They've still got a series of lower highs, still sitting under the 50, but is a stock showing relative strength. But it's just still under the 50 there, where I just prefer them, But plenty of stocks like this that have gone on there. So not the worst looking chart there. But TPG looked interesting as well, but pretty messy. I know Telstra had Telstra had a nice pop there like that. TPG, it looks okay here, but probably just a watch for me. I'd probably like to sort of see it tighten up a bit more. Anasonic's had a bit of a jump there, so you could say maybe a bit of a cup and handle in there. Bit of a deep handle. Did have the episodic pivot there. Did open up around 5.5%, Chris, on that news, which would have been a sweet sort of EP. So it has gone on there. So the sweet spot is to buy those EPs and maybe trade them. Trade half of them out day 3, day 4. So definitely would have been a winner. John Lingroth looks okay there without being fantastic there. Sort of building here. It did break a little bit of a B wave there, but hasn't been a leader. So it's more of, this is more going to be basing the mind here. So can't chase after that. I think I covered Zip. That's mainly it there. I think I covered most of the stocks in there.
It would be interesting to see, just when you said points bet, I saw also BetMakers BET was in the group as well.
Yeah, I did see that. That looked okay there. It's just a little small for me. You got a bit of a VCP tightening up there, so volume profile is pretty good into that high there and pull back on that volume. So tends to be more volume coming in on the up there. So the profile's okay, just a little bit, just not that liquid, So yeah.
But I do find it interesting if we do see a whole gaming theme in there. I remember it was probably 5 or 6 years ago now, maybe.
Yeah.
We still always online.
That Light and Wonder that's had a pretty good, and that's a VCP there, Chris. That's the pullback. I did see this one here, just being a bigger stock there. I wasn't enthused about it, but there was a nice break there around 147. So it's gone on to 170. So it had a fair move. Even did a little VCP in here as well. So I think everything Aristocrat's been pretty strong as well. So the sector's been pretty robust.
Yeah, exactly. And if we see some of the smaller ones, more of them fill up the numbers in the launch pad, while the leader Aristocrat might roll over as a blue chip can do, the space can still be strong for that other group. So we'll watch that. But something I'm going to throw on you that we haven't talked about, because I want just an unbiased opinion on it. I was trawling through some charts. I won't mention the theme or the sector that I was looking at the time, but this one came up and I just thought it was a chart worth getting your thoughts on, which was AAR, Alpha Romeo.
Yeah.
So small, but what do you take? What's your first look at on that chart?
I thought it was actually going to be another chart, which I was going to be much more excited about, but it actually looks pretty similar actually as well. but looks okay. So first, I would normally just like to have a look at where this sort of looks in the weekly. So okay, the weekly is pretty strong volume profile all the way up here. And we're in a bit of a congestion phase here, so that's pretty constructive. Okay, so we got a pretty good weekly trend there. Got pretty good volume profile too on that drive as well, Chris, as well. So yeah, look through here, good volume, pull back, lighter volume, good volume again. A little bit of selling in here, but the volume profile even more aggressive. Pull back here, lighter volume. Okay, volume up into that handle, light volume through here, a few volumes coming in. What you like about this is now that it's actually using up a bit of time here, it's sort of squaring off as well. So the profile looks okay. Yeah, you'd probably like to sort of see it dry up a bit more in here, late stage. The best setups is when they really dry up towards the end, and then they start to come out with some bars as well there. It's funny actually. I thought when you said that code, I thought it was this. I thought you were going to show me this chart, which if you look at the weekly is actually a similar chart. So got that impulsive move and then the whole thing's tightening here as well. So, yeah, it's interesting setup as well, because oftentimes you see that impulsive move and then you tighten up here and then eventually you might look to hopefully try and pop out and run here. So it's got that type of appearance here, but they do have a similar look, those stocks there. This might just need a bit more contraction possibly. But the price action and the volume profile looks pretty robust. Looks pretty positive.
That's nice. Well, thank you for that. I wanted sort of an unbiased one, but unfortunately both of them are below my threshold for trading and probably yours too. So neither of us are going to trade it, but still we can learn from the charts and analyze it, and something that we were talking about before, which is deliberate practice and just looking at these charts, even though they're not filtered in for us. It's a good practice to go through. But that's something that you still do. Is you talked about the Wyckoff theory, going bar by bar, price, price volume. Do you feel that gives you more confidence when you're trading in the hot seat and that you're putting the trades on?
Yeah, it's funny, this sort of week, something that sort of came to mind is that was kind of like rinse and repeat. So I felt like I've sort of got my trading to the stage there where I was sort of just taking trades based on my 8 rules, and I could sort of look at them and then tick them off quickly. So doing a little bit of visualization around ticking all the boxes, about taking the right trades, and then scaling up quickly. So then I felt like I've actually been, all the trades here I've taken, apart from one confession today. It's the first time I broke my rules in a month, but other than that, been pretty good here. Been following the same process over and over again. And yeah, I got my processor putting stops in and the processor reviewing, and I've been reviewing my trades and writing my trades. So been going through there. The only adjustment I've actually made as a result of the first month of my sort of new process was I noticed that, like I've been using the, look for the, the B wave break, look for like a VCP, a tightening up, and then a break, something showing strength there. So I did get an entry on web there, and then I know it's had a nice run there. So I've, sold half sort of into 2 times risk. And then I've been using the 20 as my stop there. Now, a couple of stocks I've noticed they've actually peeled back and broken the 20, and then popped higher again. And this probably happened to me about 2 or 3 times I've noticed. But again, because I'm reviewing this process there. And then so on reflection, I thought, okay, maybe what's more important rather than trying to stay with the 20 is like that sort of, in that video we covered last week, Chris, about the stops there, how you could use a 10 or a 20 or a 3-day trailing or something like that. What's often more important is sometimes when they have a bit of a breather or a congestion phase, is that they will chop those 10, 20 moving average as well. They might even chop a 3-day congestion pattern as well. But what they don't often do is the sort of strong ones that do continue to move higher is they don't break a swing low. So like quite a few of them, I was like, so see how this came back to 490, then it came back to 492, then it pulled back here to 494. So that was sort of something I saw in a few of the B wave breaks that I've got, but a couple that I got stopped at a half on the pullback. I thought, okay, well, I probably could have, they made money on the trade because 2 times, and then they've trailed a bit further, but they sort of stopped me out. And a few of them I sort of kept going. And that was the only reflection I made, was that maybe once they're sort of winning and you're taking half off,
Swing low stock.
yeah, maybe you got to give them a little bit more room. So, but how do you give them more room without giving them too much room? Because you don't want to give up the profits there. We talked about when we featured that video there of the different stops and the different processes and how to be dynamic and not, is that at the end of the day, different processes, they all ended up with a pretty similar result. Taking half off, what it did was it just evened out the gains and losses, so that you kept the account ticking over. It just kept the win rate a little bit higher, but probably didn't really affect the long-term returns. So again, that's a small adjustment that I've made in the last month, and that's only because I've been taking all these VCP sort of setups and then getting the moves and then getting stopped out on some of them, because I'm reviewing them like a month later, thinking, okay, well, some of these positions have sort of kept going. What could have kept me in that trade, and is it a big shift? The reality is, I think the 20 here might have been 496, and the stop could have been 492, so it wouldn't have been a big adjustment. So and there's another example as well, which was very similar. I think it was about 4 cents difference as well. So I thought, oh, that was definitely food for thought for me. But I only did that. I only sort of saw that because I'm reviewing my trades in detail, going through them and watching there. So, now I've got to work out. The other thing, I need a bigger subset to work out whether it's 2 times or 2.25 or 2.5 is possible. So, again, I'll probably try and get 50. The first 50 trades I do, I'll try and review them all, and I'll do the stats on the 50 and then work out what percentage did what. And then, after that stage, I'll try and get it maybe an 80 percentile. So other ones that moved up and didn't stop me out early. What percentage, what was the average sort of move on the first leg up, gentlemen? So that'll be worth looking at.
Definitely, that kind of data is really helpful for tweaking the system, but doing it in an educated way. So you've talked about reviewing it. You've talked about sort of that deliberate practice of going back and having a very calculated way of doing it. I guess we can point now to a whole playlist that we've created, which is of these type of insights that Gary's shared, not only with the model books, but how he comes about to review the model books, the type of research that he puts into it. We'll put a playlist there to the right-hand side, and we'll say thank you very much, Gary Glover from Novus Capital.
Thanks, Chris.